IVM.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Actually, hang on, wait a second. This is the second episode of the week, right? So this is the first ever midweek update that we've got for the IPL 2020 by popular demand. And I have with me my co-podcaster Ashwin Garg, all the way from the US. Ashwin, excited to be on the first ever midweek IPL update for Edges and Sledges?
Yeah, hard to beat it, right? To be honest, mostly excited that people wanted to listen to us. Sometimes I have a hard time believing that there are people tuning in, listening to us anyway. So the fact that we got a number of messages, tweets, posts, everything just saying, hey guys, we need more from you this IPL. So, there were some asks for daily updates, etc. I think twice a week is a good start. So it's great, super exciting. And we've never done a Wednesday episode before.
Yeah, it's great. And guys, thank you so much for writing in. It's great to know that there are people listening, people who want more content. It's, we're so excited about it. And I think I may have opened Pandora's box last week by saying, I wish I could do this daily. I still wish I could do it daily. But as you say, twice a week's a great start, man. And so what we're going to do over the next kind of 6 weeks that the IPL's got to run, right, is we're going to do 2 episodes a week. We're going to do a midweek update with the games that have been played until Wednesday. And then we'll carry on with the regular episode on Sunday. We'll record it on Sunday and we'll release it on Monday. So you'll get episodes of Edges and Sledges on Monday as well as Thursday, guys. So we're super excited to put this together for you. Varun should hopefully join us on Sunday as well. It's a little bit late for him today, so he can't make it. Guys, we've had a fantastic week already, right? I mean, we left you with Tewatia taking the Rajasthan Royals along with Samson to an incredible win on Sunday. And I mean, there was so much buzz around that. There were some amazing articles written about that. Cricinfo wrote a great article. Sid Monga, we'll put a link in the show notes. I mean, fantastic article. Ashwin, did you get a chance to read that?
Yeah, not only read it, I got sent it probably like 6-7 different ways, right? Different people sharing it, saw it online, saw it on Twitter, saw it on our Discord channel, etc. I think it got sent on our own Discord channel 3 times, right? So just such a beautiful read, right? Talked about the ups and downs of cricket, about the journey, not just as a cricketer, as an Indian cricketer in the hyper-competitive landscape, and about Rahul Tewatia and the fight. So I absolutely loved it. We all spent so much time during that Rajasthan Royals chase talking about how he should just come down the track and get stumped or get hit wicket or just retire hurt. And the fight it takes to be a professional cricketer, that mental tenacity and strength to say, I played the worst 20 balls in my life, but I can still do this. Just outstanding. So we talked about this on last week's show, but so happy for the guy and just a beautiful read that I'm glad did the rounds because it was well deserved.
And as I said, we'll put a link in the show notes. It's called Rahul Tewatia and the Romance of the Struggle. Just a fantastic article about a freakish knock and some really, really kind of nice instances from his career. But of course, if we thought that the Royals game was kind of like peak IPL and it couldn't get better, right? I mean, we were all like, okay, like Kings 11 versus Royals, incredible chase, record-breaking chase. I mean, RCB versus Mumbai, 2 pretty popular teams. Are they going to live up to the excitement of Sunday? And Ashwin, did you see the game on Monday coming at all? I mean, RCB versus Mumbai Indians, maybe we can talk through that quickly.
Yeah, I definitely didn't, right? So as a reminder, at the end of Sunday, 9 matches were done. The second match of the IPL, the Delhi versus Punjab match, already had a super over. So we thought, wow, you already had that on the first weekend in the first week. Then comes Monday, game 10, and we had another super over. It was unreal. It was unlike anything I'd expected coming into this year's IPL. I just remind myself at times that many of us thought there wouldn't be an IPL this year. And here we are in the 10th match, Mumbai chasing a mammoth total, and we have yet another super over. So DJ, do you want me to talk through kind of what happened in the game?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can start with the de Villiers genius and then go from there, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, well, I'd start even one level higher up, and Devdutt Padikkal makes his second 50 in just 3 games, right? Great opening option for Bangalore. Stable, knows how to hit, able to hit the sixes. Aaron Finch found some form as well. Virat Kohli continued his rough patch. My hope is he's just getting it out of his system early. Everybody wants to see Kohli do well. And then the genius of de Villiers, 55 off just 24 balls. DJ, I want to just say, I don't think Shivam Dubey got enough credit for this match. He came in, hit 3 big sixes, a 4, made 27 not out, of 10 balls while batting with de Villiers helped them cross that 200 mark with Bangalore ending at 201. What do you think it is? Was it just because de Villiers was so magnificent, Dubé got overshadowed, or do people not want to give a player like Dubé his due? Why do you think we're not talking about him more?
I don't know. I mean, he played a nice innings. It was 27 out of 10. I think he benefited from people not wanting to bowl at AB de Villiers at the end, right? So they were like, let's give AB one and we'll bowl to this guy Dubé. But I mean, Dubé's played for India. We've seen him hit sixes for India. Limited probably in his stroke play, I think, and they kind of fed his arc a little bit in that innings. But I mean, deserves credit, 27 of 10 and hit the last one for 6. And what a difference that made, right, in the final analysis. So maybe we move on now to the Mumbai innings, Ashwin. And they had a bit of a weird start, right? Sharma didn't really get off. The Cock, their big scorer, didn't get runs. Yadav went for a duck. And then you had Hardik Pandya come in and he kind of just swatted across the line, got caught by Pawan Negi on the boundary of Zampa. That brought together Ishan Kishan and Kieron Pollard. Ashwin, I know you had backed Ishan Kishan. You had him in his team, in your fantasy team. We all kind of had Ishan Kishan in our preview teams, right? Like about when we talked Mumbai, we all had him batting 4, but this was the first game that he got an opportunity because Saurabh Tiwari was injured. Do you think he did justice to his inclusion in this game?
I mean, anybody who says he didn't. He made 99 of 58 balls. Poor guy, 100% deserved the century. Gets out. When did he get out? On the penultimate ball of the match, right? 19.5 he got out.
Yeah, it was 5 of 2 needed then, right?
But 5 of 2 needed. He got out, leaving 5 runs off the last ball. So disappointing that he got out. Outstanding knock. He looked good. He looked like he knew when to take the signals. He looked like he knew when he needed to go for boundaries. So I loved watching him out there. You feel for, Mumbai has a solid bench, obviously. You feel for Saurabh Tiwari, who didn't look bad in the first couple outings, but I have a hard time seeing him coming back in for Kishan unless Kishan really struggles. So, great knock overall. I do want to say I'm really struggling. I said this on Discord, so some of you heard me say it. I'm really struggling that Hardik Pandya seems to think the only place to make runs is mid-wicket. Like, have you noticed this, DJ?
We've talked about it, man. He
shuffles and he just hits it to mid-wicket. So they put 2 guys on the leg side boundary and he inevitably he'll hit a couple of sixes there and then he'll get caught. And it's like, this is a 360-degree field, it's a 360-degree stadium. He just saw AB Mr. 360, as he's called, bat on the other side.
That's a bit of an unfair comparison, though.
No, I'm just saying, he just would have watched AB hit the ball all around the ground. And then he just hits every shot to mid-wicket. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, he's caught. There's no other way he's getting out. There's no other way he's making runs. So
I remember we actually talked about this maybe in the New Zealand tour that he'd made a comeback over some T20 games where he got stuck in one game. Maybe it was against South Africa. And he was trying to hit everything to the leg side. So I think I tweeted and we talked about the fact that he hasn't got those strokes over the offside against proper pace bowling as well. So that was something for him to work on, actually. And we saw him being exposed, but 100% in agreement with that. Ashwin, we'll come to this point again when we come to the Super Over. But let's go quickly, right? We then saw Hardik Pandya fall when it was 78 for 4 in the 12th over. Now, remember, they're chasing 200. And who walks in but Kieron Pollard, now legend for the Mumbai Indians. We've all seen him in that dressing room, the leader that he is. But he'd gone 18 games without scoring a 50 for the Mumbai Indians, right? And so he wasn't someone you'd actually back to get those runs. And when he joined Ishan Kishan, it looked like the Mumbai Indians were dead and buried. I have to say, 12th over, they were 120 runs away. They needed like 120 runs nearly of less than 8 overs. So, 8.4 overs. So, I mean, they looked like they were gone, but the equation then was brought down to 90 of 30, Ashwin, and they put together a partnership. They kind of got themselves going. 90 of 30. We've seen the heroics of Tewatia and Samson and Tom Curran on the previous day, right, on Sunday. But that was a Sharjah, which is a really tiny ground with a really good batting track. All the talk here was don't write anybody off, but this is a huge ground, a different attack, a different boundary. Then we shouldn't write them off. But I mean, people had written them off, right? I don't know whether you'd written it off because we were watching, but more out of morbid curiosity than anything else.
I think up until 2017, for the most part, and I'm just paraphrasing here from memory, but up until about 2017, 90 of 30 would have been a done deal. Nobody thinks about it. Nobody assumes anything's doable, etc. basically by 2018, when Russell started his crazy heroics lower in the order and then doubled down on those in 2019, now it just feels like anything is chaseable. So you're right. I had sort of checked out. I just assumed they can't do it because it is the bigger ground, but unbelievable, right? Honestly, any total is chaseable now. If you got we saw Tewatia do it from nowhere, hitting 30 runs in the 1 over. We saw these guys get to a tie with 90 of 30. So any total is chaseable. And honestly, that's what makes the IPL the tournament it is.
And they looked like they had it under control as well. They didn't look like they were panicking. So when they needed 90 of 30, we all thought it was done. And then Pollard started smashing it everywhere. Saini came in for the penultimate over, which I thought was a particularly good call because they had Udana playing that game. And he is the overseas bowler. So there was an argument for him to come in and bowl the more crucial over. But Saini only went for 11 runs, right? Leaving them to get 20 of the last over. They got 19 of those with Ishan Kishan falling inches short of finishing that game on 99. I mean, when that ball went up in the air to mid-wicket, I think Padikkal caught him. What a win that would have been for Mumbai from nowhere. I mean, no one would have backed them to win it. As it turned out, he was caught on the boundary by Padikkal of Udana's bowling, and that then left too much to do of the last ball. Pollard could have won it with a 6. Again, it fell about a foot short of going for 6. And then we had a second super over. And now let's talk about that super over and some choices that were made, Ashwin, because I think that is the particularly interesting point here. So Mumbai obviously were batting, so they continued batting. They batted first. Ashwin, did Mumbai miss a trick by not sending Rohit Sharma out? And our listeners have actually written in and saying, why didn't he follow his own advice in the Dream 11 ad where he says, opener ho, opening karunga?
Yeah, it's a tough call, right? I think some sides have very, very clear answer to who walks out in a super over, and some have less clarity on it. For me, in hindsight, given that they lost, of course, it looks like they missed a trick. For me, on paper, in a super over, Pollard and by the way, Rohit walked in at 3, right? But Pollard and Pandya are both outstanding, massive hitters who are decent choices in the super over. So I think there's 2 questions. One, did they miss a trick by not having Rohit? Rohit is India's biggest 6 hitter. He could have absolutely been a great choice. But I understand the choice to send Pandya. The second is, why didn't they send Ishan Kishan? He was striking it beautifully, 99 of 58. I think that was both a little bit of mental fatigue and obviously physical fatigue, where, you almost saw Ishan just sitting in the dugout with his head in his hands and whatnot because he wasn't able to take his team over the line in the 20 overs. And so maybe mentally he wasn't ready to go out there and face a super over. So tough call. I think I can absolutely see Rohit walking in on his own. I can understand the decision here as well.
I think also there was the element of dehydration and physical fatigue for Ishan Kishan, right? And I think AB de Villiers really struggled as well. And I mean, if Kishan couldn't make it over, and it's a shortened game, so it's only 6 balls, and if he's not at his best, I think it's fine to leave him out. My personal view is that Rohit should have come out, taken the responsibility on, and gone for it. For me, 6 balls. The argument is have your biggest 6 hitter, your best batsman, on strike from ball 1. It's such a short time span, right? It's 6 balls. Every ball matters. So I mean, even Rohit coming out to run would have been an issue for me, because if you're backing him, and India's backed him in the past, he's delivered those 6s in the super over in the past for India. I thought he missed a trick there, personally, but obviously the debate rages on. The other thing was, do you think he melted a little bit under the pressure of the super over, Ashwin? Because you saw Bumrah bowling bouncers with the fine leg in. I mean, what was going on there, man?
Yeah, very, very, very poor captaincy, right? And it's almost amazing that the commentators were talking about it on screen as it was happening. And you just saw the fine leg was in the circle, and he bowled a bouncer on the hips, and he hit it. He got hit over the boundary for 6. So very, very odd. Was it 6-4? I don't remember exactly, but he got hit to the fine leg boundary, and we were just watching it as though it had to happen. So very odd. Rohit is usually tactically a little bit more sound than that. So disappointing captaincy. But, I would have expected to see Bumrah bowl in more Yorkers or a field set for that short ball, and neither of those happened.
Yeah, so RCB eventually won that game. AB de Villiers and Kohli finished it. How nice was that touch where Kohli basically said, "Tu chal main aayi," to AB de Villiers, man?
Yeah, I love it. What a great story, right? Like when they said, why did you walk out there? AB said, "I'm going," and Kohli said, "I'm coming too." And that's what you love about this game. This side has never won, and they both, the Kohli AB relationship has just blossomed. It's amazing to see. I really, really do hope RCB does well this year. They deserve it.
Yeah, so a bit of a tribute maybe to the SP Balasubramaniam song, right? From Maine Pyar Kiya. He obviously tragically passed away this week. So maybe Kohli was going for that. But I mean, that wraps up that incredible game after the Tewatia and Samson heroics against Kings 11 Punjab on Sunday. So Sunday and Monday were just two incredible days and we were buzzing. The next game was a Delhi Capitals versus Sunrisers Hyderabad game. Ashwin, I'm going to just try and not dwell too much on this because it's a little bit of a painful memory, I think, for us as Delhi Capitals fans. But Bairstow, Warner and Kane, obviously Sunrisers won the game. They batted first. Did they read the pitch better, Ashwin? Because Delhi Capitals won the toss and they put the Sunrisers in to bat, and the Sunrisers got off to a really slow start, and we were really happy that Delhi was bowling pretty well. But eventually it turned out to be too much. And so was it a case of these three class batsmen, Bairstow, Warner and Kane, just reading the pitch better and knowing how to bat on it?
Yeah, I think so. I think Delhi did bowl well. I think it's hard to say whether we missed a trick at the toss or not. I mean, every captain who won the toss up until this point had lost the match, even though, regardless of whether they chose to bat first or field first. But I think a masterclass in batting. I mean, Warner and Bairstow just stuck it out. Bairstow more than Warner, even though they were struggling. I didn't get to watch this match live, unfortunately, so I only saw highlights. Kane Williamson walking in at 4. I mean, what a legend. What an absolute brilliant player. Picked the gaps, hit beautifully, ended up at a strike rate of 157, the highest in the game, except for Hetmeyer, who wasn't able to make too many runs, but just incredible. 41 runs. I mean, what do you do with your overseas slots, right? You've now dropped Nabi. Hyderabad's going to have, Hyderabad came out on top in this game, fully deserved, well done. I mean, yeah, Delhi's chase just kind of fell apart, didn't do much, but what do you do now, right? Nabi is on the bench. Fabian Allen, who I had tipped to play for the Hyderabad team in their 11, also arguably deserves a spot. But how do you leave out a guy like Williamson, who comes in and just bats so brilliantly in his first game? It's hard to say.
Yeah, so they managed to get him in, and they got Abdul Samad in as well, who's got a great backstory, man. He's from Jammu and Kashmir, backed by the Pathan brothers. He had a huge 6 as well, and he looks like some prospect, man. We'll put a link in the show notes to the profile that I think Sportstar has put together of him. Really interesting character. Looks like a really big hitter and a really good prospect for them. But Ashwin, let's talk a little bit about the Delhi Capitals chase, no matter how painful it is for us. We never really got going, never really got off the ground. Captain Iyer, Rishabh Pant, Dhawan, all getting out to Rashid Khan, who bowled beautifully. But why were we attacking their best spinner? Can we talk about this? Why were we going on? And we're letting their kind of all-round option, Abhishek Sharma, until he got taken for a few runs in the last over, he was bowling. He'd bowled 3 overs for 19, right? And we were just kind of knocking him around. What was going on? What's the thinking there?
Yeah, credit where it's due. I think mostly all the Hyderabad bowlers bowled well, right? Bhuvi found some form, picking up 2. Khalil looked decent, not as strong as he has before, but looked decent. And Natarajan actually fired in those Yorkers really nicely. So why? I think they attacked Rashid Khan because of desperation, because the other guys bowled well as well. But honestly, poor planning from Delhi, right? Like, Iyer actually looked really, really poor out there. He's one of my favorite young cricketers, so just let's hope it's an off day. But 17 of 21 had to go after Rashid because he put pressure on himself and got out poorly. I think we've talked a lot about the UAE and the fact that as these pitches slow down, as you start to reuse pitches, etc., it's going to become tougher and tougher to bat. The ball isn't going to come on as well, etc. We're already starting to see that, right? We're in the week 2 of the IPL and we're starting to see it. So it's going to be really interesting to see which sides have the temperament and the strategic thinking to adjust their game plan, etc., and react differently. I believe, by the way, Ricky Ponting and Shreyas Iyer both have it. They didn't do it for this game. It'll be great to see when it happens. And I am predicting for Delhi, there'll be some shuffling with Hetmeyer losing his spot potentially. Ajinkya Rahane may be coming in to be that more steady batsman who can hit the boundaries along the ground when you need to and take the singles on a tough wicket. And then one more overseas spot going to either I keep calling him Kemo Paul or Sandeep Lamichhane.
Awesome. Of course, you also mentioned Natarajan, man, and he's got a great story. We'll put a link in the show notes to the tweets about how he's come out from the TNPL and how he's helped a load of cricketers kind of make their way into cricket and make sure that they're staying in cricket. Just a fantastic story there as well. I mean, there's so many great human interest stories around this IPL and cricket. It's so good to hear about all of them because it gives recognition to some of the lesser known players, right? I just find that fascinating. So make sure you check out the show notes for that. Ashwin, we're the Rishabh Pant show. We need to talk about Rishabh Pant. He scored 28 of 27. Is he under pressure from Samson and Rahul's performances? Is he still trying to battle his demons with trying to be the next Dhoni? What's happening with our boy?
Really tough, right? Very, very tough question. Very disappointing, to be honest. I don't have a good answer for you. I think what you've been saying a lot of, which I tend to agree with, is that it's more in his head than anything. Between the multiple wicket keepers who did well, obviously Rahul being a part-time keeper who's done amazingly, Samson and then Ishan Kishan, maybe that's gotten into his head a little bit. I just struggle with it, man. It's been now 5 years since he started playing first-class cricket. 2 years, more than 2 years since he started playing or 3 years almost. More than 3 years since he played for the country the first time. More than 2 years since he played his first test. So he's not new to the scene anymore. I know it doesn't, like, being a sports person is incredibly mentally difficult, but yeah, just a really tough situation. I hope he gets the kind of mental support conditioning he needs because he has struggled at the international level at times, but has always been pretty consistently strong in the IPL. So I hope he's able to bounce back. Tough spot for Rishabh Pant. And honestly, even fans who really, really like him and back him a lot are starting to get tired, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's also 22, so hopefully he can come out of this little funk. It was a tough track, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt because we are, after all, the Rishabh Pant show. Ashwin, let's talk about the game today, Wednesday, very quickly. KKR versus Rajasthan Royals. The Rajasthan Royals Twitter account put out a tweet saying that they were the only team with a 100% win record, and as luck would have it, they immediately went and lost the next game that was played in a ground that was not Sharjah. Jofra was brilliant. I mean, fantastic pace, but it looked a little bit like it was the under-19 show all over again. Shubman Gill scores runs, Mavi and Nagarkoti actually picks up the man of the match. How exciting was that game to watch from a youngster's perspective, Ashwin? Because, I mean, the game itself wasn't that interesting, wasn't really much of a contest, kind of petered out. Tom Curran got a 50 to inflate the scores. But, I mean, how good was that game? From a youngster's perspective, that is.
Yeah, outstanding, honestly. Like, just a very disappointing match in general. I think we needed it. We needed a little bit of a one-sided match to balance out the craziness we've had the last 2 days, but really good from a youngster's perspective, right? Including, by the way, Jaydev Unadkat, not as young, but looked really good with the ball. Nice to see him kind of come back to form, even though he didn't complete his spell. I thought Ankit Rajput looked pretty decent with the ball as well, got one good wicket. And then KKR, right? Like, we've been almost waiting 2 years for this Mavi Nagarkoti duo to open the ball or to bowl in tandem for KKR. So I thought they looked great. I mean, so much so that Varun Chakravarti finished his spell, Mavi finished his spell, but Pat Cummins didn't even finish his spell. There was a point when it almost looked like Kuldeep wouldn't come on the ball just because of how well the three youngsters were bowling for KKR, being Mavi, Nagarkoti and Varun. So really exciting, great to see. I mean, this is the thing with the IPL, right? Everybody after the first game where KKR lost big time basically just said, you know what? These guys are not going to make it to the finals or the playoffs. They have no shot, etc. And now, even in the absence of performances, call it from Karthik, Morgan has looked a little iffy. Russell hasn't gone really big. He had a couple nice shots today, but they still look solid because of the Indian talent. So lots of excitement to come. The IPL is a long tournament, as we keep saying, both for games and for fantasy, but love to see the Indian youngsters step up.
Yeah, and they've been messing around with their batting order a little bit. We saw Russell come up the order. We saw Morgan go down the order. But if it ended in a win, fair game to them, man. So there we have it, guys. That's the midweek wrap. We're at a situation where a visual from Cricinfo, again, we'll put a link to that in the show notes, actually says every team in that visual has beaten the other. So who's winning? It's a perfect circle, right, Ashwin?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Like A is beaten B, B's beaten C, C's beaten A. It's unbelievable. And that's, again, what we love about the IPL, right? There's no clear, at least so far this year, no clear top two and no clear bottom two. I hope it stays this way for as long as possible. Because when you start to see one team, like when RCB lost 6 in a row that 1 year, it's just deflating for people. So I really hope it stays this way.
There we have it, guys. The first midweek IPL update, and incredible to be here doing this in the middle of the week. Thanks, Ashwin, for joining me. As usual, please do keep writing in. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 1tip1 email us at contact@onetiponehand.com. But guys, it's been incredible. Thank you for all the lovely feedback about the IPL episodes. Motivated us to put this out twice a week instead of just the regular weekly podcast. So let us know what you think about that. We've talked through the big games of the week already: RCB versus MI, Delhi Capitals versus Sunrisers, as well as KKR versus RR. And we're looking forward to the rest of the games of the week. We're chatting with all of you on Discord as well. So do join that Discord server. We'll put the link in the show notes for this one. We'll be covering the remaining games in the week and recording with our Delhi Capitals fans and listeners later in the week. And that episode will drop on Monday. So make sure you catch that. Guys, it's been a pleasure putting this together, and we will see you next Monday. Until then, take care and keep watching the IPL.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Intel, for supporting us. First, right off the bat, want to congratulate Ashton Doctor on celebrating the 300th episode of The Habit Coach. It's a great show. If you haven't been listening to it, listen to it now. And if you listen to it, you can almost go for an entire year with an episode a day. It's really fun. Do definitely check that out. Arjun Koladi, the head of sales for Spotify in India, was on Advertising is Dead. Do check that out. Really fun show. On Cyrus Says, we had Sumit Basu, the author, fantasy author, one of my favorites. Definitely do check that out. It was Utsav Memorial Week this week on the IVM Network. He was on Cyrus Says Cock and Bull on Thursday. He was on Litnama and, of course, his own podcast, Postcards from Nowhere. Do check that out. And one last note before we go. IVM Likes is back, and we've been doing a bunch of interesting conversations about different pop culture things that you might want to check out during the pandemic. Do give it a listen. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.